You are listening to Amplify Your Success Podcast, episode 114. And today, let's make sure you never make a hiring mistake again. I've got the 5 things you must find out before you hire again. So let's get started.
Welcome to the Amplify Your Success Podcast. Hey, are you a thought leader, creative entrepreneur, or change maker and want to magnify your impact, boost influence while creating a financial abundance? Stay tuned for today's inspiring episode with your host, Melanie Benson.
Hello there, inspired entrepreneurs and business leaders. Let's talk hiring. If you are a solopreneur and you've never hired anyone, I want you to listen to today's episode through the lens or the filter of, I probably need to hire someone, even if it's a virtual assistant, at some point if I want to grow. But if you're seasoned at this, you've hired a lot of different people, I want you to look at these 5 steps, these 5 things that I do, and see if you are doing all 5 of them. Now, I've been hiring people for many years. So way back in my corporate days, I was involved in hiring. I was hiring contractors for multi-million-dollar projects. I was hiring employees to work on our team. But when I started my own business, I realized that all of that skill set, all of that process seemed to go out the window, and I had to start from scratch. And it's not because it was all that different. It was because one thing changed. I was now on the line personally. And, a corporation has a budget for these things, but when it's your own business, it's your money, it's your time, it's your business, and everything radically changes. And if I'm being completely honest and transparent, I actually started falling into this place of fear. And if you've hired before and later felt really disappointed by the results, or you felt like you got burned, you maybe felt taken advantage of, or you've hired repeatedly and getting the same outcomes, I think you're going to relate when I say that I got to the point where I was really afraid to make a hiring mistake again. And I do have a process that seems to work really well, but one thing had shifted in me. And that was, I was not in a place of looking for the perfect client support person or virtual assistant or assistant, whatever contractor I was hiring. I was in so much fear of making a mistake that I had distorted my lens. So I'm going to talk today about some of the nuance questions, the nuance processes I go through. And this really will, I hope you will use these questions, this process, because it can eliminate a lot of the mistakes you can't figure out why you're making. Now, very first thing we have to cover, it's you. How do you start this process so that you go into it attracting and really using all your senses properly and not make the most common mistake that entrepreneurs make when they hire, and that is hiring to get out of pain. So usually by the time an entrepreneur hires, they're in so much pain, something's breaking down, they've realized they just are bottlenecking their growth. They're like, oh my God, I need to hire someone today. Maybe me or whoever your coach is has said, you got to hire someone now, which I know some of my clients are like, okay, I've got to hire like this week. What happens when you're rushed and you are pushing yourself to find someone immediately, you will skip a lot of important steps. I had a funny experience where been going through the hiring process again, and I'll tell you a little bit about some of the nuances I changed in this one that got me much better result. But what I found was that one of the people I hired said to me, because she kind of came in late in the process, she said, oh my gosh, I was so surprised the position was still open, because she had maybe like 6 days in had sent her resume through. And I said, I do things very differently. I said, I don't rush a hire. I hire slowly. But I've learned this, is that when I know it's not working, I fire quickly. I transition someone out very quickly. But I learned to take my time with this so that I can make sure I'm hiring for the right fit. And that's the most important thing I want you to get across. Like, you are not hiring to fill a hole. You're not hiring good enough. You are hiring the right person Whether it's a contractor, a web designer, a graphics person, a personal assistant, or a virtual assistant, doesn't matter. You have to use the same process to find the right fit. And this is why so many people get frustrated with their virtual assistants, is they're not taking enough time, and there are unspoken needs and expectations that are not being clarified from the get-go. And so, the business owner is going about like one paradigm. It's like, okay, this is what I'm getting. The contractor or the virtual assistant or employee is going, okay, this is my paradigm of what I'm delivering. And there's not a clear alignment of fit. And this is why things break down. So the first thing you have to do is get your mindset right. And that means take time and go through this process expecting to be wowed. Expect this person to exceed your expectations. If you go into this with dread or needing to fill this hole in your business quickly, or you're worried that you're going to make a mistake and your fear is really up, you will not be able to hear the intuitive hits that will guide you. You must listen to your intuition. If your intuition is screaming, this is not a good fit, listen. You don't have to know why. Trust it. I guarantee you that you will be saved from making a mistake. You cannot let your fear drive this process. Another quick example of this is this last round. I really I've gone through a few people in one role in my business, and I checked in with myself and I realized I had been running some old patterns and some old paradigms, and I was afraid that I would trust someone and they wouldn't deliver it 100%. And so I kept hiring it, and then I actually outsourced the hiring for a while because I'm like, I'm not picking the right people. And that didn't work because it actually fit that person's paradigm, not mine. And so as I went into this, I did a huge mindset shift. I cleared a limiting belief I had that no one was going to be able to support me the way that I wanted. And honestly, that was really going through my mind in the past. And I went in with, I am going to be supported above and beyond my wildest expectations. That I am going to find the person who exceeds my needs. And so I had a list of qualities that were crucial for me. And, it was like 5 or 6 really important qualities, and then some things that I desired. And I used that as my filtering system for who got into the interview process and who didn't. I used my intuition. There was one person who got into the next level. I did a first interview, and really talented, lots of skills, but something was kind of going off on my radar. And I'm like, okay, she's super talented, very experienced, but something's clicking here that going off in my spidey senses. And as we went into round 2, and I sent the round 2 exercise, she bowed out and said, this isn't a good fit. So my intuition was right, but I was willing to let the process help me decide. Now, the second thing that's really important here is to ask really good questions. Now, of course, you want to ask about their skill sets and make sure that you know what skills you need and what level of skill set. So do they have to be an expert, or they just have to know more than you? You want to understand, are they able to really take this off your plate and be in charge? Or do you want to be in charge and just tell someone what to do? That distinction is critical. You also need to know what kind of experience they have. So you definitely want to ask questions about experience. You want to get clear on pricing. But there's some things that I found, 4 more questions that I found really help me access my intuition. And the first one is, if I asked a previous client what result they most benefited from in your services, what would they say? Now, here's why this question is so awesome. It's not them telling you their strengths. You've already heard that once. Now, from a different point of view, you're finding out what they think their clients get wowed by. What is the results they're driving? I'm a big believer in every single person on the team needs to be delivering a result that drives revenue, drives retention, and drives my ability to do more of my genius work. So when you ask that question, you will find out a lot. Now, in this last round, when I asked this question to some of the people in the first round, I knew very quickly if they couldn't tell me a result, they were not a good fit, because that's not what the role was for. And it's not that made them a bad team member or bad virtual assistant. It's just they weren't right for this position with me because I am results driven. The second question, and this is such a good question, is what lights you up and gives you energy? It's another way of asking them what they're good at. And what, if they're not doing this, they will get burned out and eventually not feel like being like a peak performer. Now, there's a lot of different ways you could ask that question. You could ask them what their superpower is. What do you think your genius is? But I like what lights you up. So basically, what gets you up in the morning and fires you up and makes you want to get to work? When you know that, you will lead them better. You will also have great insight. Are the tasks on this, in this particular role I'm hiring for, in that genre? Or am I asking them to do things that maybe aren't their passions, aren't the things that light them up? The third question is, what is your work availability? Now, I bet that many of the people who listen to this podcast have never asked that question. And here's why this is so critical. This is the number one reason why the disappointment factor creeps in. I'm working with a client in my Awaken Leadership Mastermind right now, and she hired someone and was so excited to get off the ground. And then all of a sudden things were crashing and burning. So I took her back and I said, now, how did you clarify these certain factors? And I said, what did you find out about their work availability? Silence. She had not asked them about their work availability. And so what was happening was she needed this person to work faster than the, service provider could go. And I've had this happen where like I need someone to work on Pacific time, but they're on East Coast time and they like to be done by noon, or they don't work Fridays, right? So if you ask the right questions, you will find out, is this a fit? Now, your job is not to go, okay, I can live with that, but you can't. Don't negotiate your non-negotiables. Write that down. Do not negotiate your non-negotiables. This is not a time in your life to go, all right, well, there's everything else is great, but that's not. You either clarify right out of the gate and say, that's not really going to fit. Is there any flexibility there? Or you say, pass, and you trust that there is a better fit out there for you. So work availability means what time zone, if that's important to you, what days of the week do they work, and how much bandwidth are they able to give you during their work time? So if you've got critical timeline tasks that have to be done that are client sensitive or project sensitive, and you've got someone who only works between 9 o'clock at night and midnight because they're working a full-time job, not going to be a good fit. I've had people apply for positions where I say you must be available between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. Pacific time, and they're like, oh no, I can only work at night. Not a good fit. Find out what their work availability is, and you might even take it a step further and ask them how many clients maxes them out. And if they don't have a team and it's just them and they've got 20 clients, trust me, their attention is going to be very divided. So find out what's important to you. And by the way, if you're coaching with me, I will take you through this process in the next leadership retreat. This is critical to understand what is important to you. All right, here's the last question. And I think this is probably one of the best questions you can ask towards the end of your time with someone, when you know there's a good fit and you want to just kind of flush out the personality piece. And you could ask them something like, what could frustrate you the most in this role? Or what in the past has frustrated you the most in similar client relationships? Now, first of all, when you know what frustrates somebody and you know you do that, you got to clear that out right away. And you can say, you know what, that's kind of the way we roll here. And if that's going to be a hard thing for you, I don't think this is going to be a good fit. Or you can say, great, well, we don't do that here, so that's going to be a great fit for them. Knowing what frustrates someone helps you lead them better, helps you overcome things that dissolve their motivation and derail them from being an A player on the team. And it also helps you figure out, are you the right fit? And I'll tell you one thing you've got to look for is if you're somebody that does everything at the last minute, and you've got someone that frustrates, this will always be a horrible process. And I guarantee you, within a year, they'll be out because they really want the job. Like, a lot of people are great at sales and they're trying to land the job, and they may not be as discerning as you about the right fit. So you do the job. You say no. I said no to several great candidates in this last process, and I was very clear with them. Like, look, what lights you up is not really what this role is about. And so I think it's probably not the best fit here. And when you do that, you gain respect, you gain integrity, and your intuition gets honed, and you'll be able to trust it even more. Now, there's a lot of pieces to hiring, and I know this is probably just scratching the surface. I'm going to link a couple of blog posts to this in the show notes, because there's some things I've written about in my blog, and we do have some products here, but we are, like, my whole passion in life is to turn you into being the leader your business needs you to be. So if hiring and leading a team feels scary to you, or it's like, okay, this is a new skill, I want to encourage you to step up your game this year. Hire a coach that can help you. It's really just a muscle to build. And I found that hiring help and having enough help, so you may have a team, but maybe not enough of a team or not the right people on the team. Getting the right people on your team is the key to achieving bigger, bolder goals. And leverage is one of the 5 pillars I teach in the Own Your Bold Challenge, which guides you through my proven process to raise your influence and your income by being seen and hired as an industry expert. And there are 5 really important pillars that many people who are experts or really passionate about what they do, they're missing one or all of these 5 pillars, and they're just turned into this invisible expert who isn't getting the traction they need. And I made my challenge free at ownyourboldchallenge.com. So get into the challenge, go through the 5 days of leveling up and elevating your ability to impact and increase your income along the way. I can't wait to hear your breakthroughs as you take the Own Your Bold Challenge. This is Melanie Benson, your host. Thanks so much for listening in today. If you want to catch up on any of the show notes and circle back on any of the resources we shared in today's show, head on over to the show page at amplifyyoursuccesspodcast.com. And remember, you amplify your results faster when you're in a community of other people who are moving and shaking. Join us at amplifyyoursuccesscommunity.com. One last thing. When you've gained insight from today's episode, help us share that and inspire other people by heading over to iTunes, subscribing, and give it a review. iTunes absolutely loves seeing these reviews pop up, and it actually helps boost my show's visibility. So I would be super grateful for your reviews. And as always, I love seeing your shares of these episodes on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Come find me over there. Tag me in your shares. I'll give you some social media love right back. So see you next week for another inspiring episode of Amplify Your Success Podcast.